Hey everyone, welcome back. You're watching the VSO Gun Channel, and it's great to be here as always. I've got some news for you that broke last night. I posted it on my X feed, formerly known as Twitter. If you're not following me over there, then go ahead and do that. I post there multiple times a day, mostly snarky stuff because we got free speech over there. That said, you have delivered what is known as a trifecta, specifically a Republican trifecta. And that is when a party holds the presidency, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. All chambers of government are now held by the Republicans. And what does that mean? That's what we're going to be talking about, as well as my take on some of the appointments that are being made. There's going to be a whole lot of people melting down today. And that's what we're going to be talking about after we hear a quick word from today's sponsor. Sites are very much a point of personal preference for people, and my personal preference is for the Big Dot site from XS. Now, they make a whole bunch of different variations out there, but generally speaking, what you're looking at is a photoluminescent ring that charges up with the ambient light, and then a tritium vial in the center, so regardless of lighting conditions outside, there'll be something for you to pick up. Now, I've been working with XS for a long period of time. I was a client of theirs before they were a client of mine, and I thank them very much for being a supporter of the mission here at the VSO Gun Channel for a long period of time. Go give them some love. Yes, the Republicans have taken the House. That means they have the House, the Senate, and the presidency. I will throw the current counts up on screen for you guys for the House, the Senate, the Electoral College count, and, of course, the popular vote victory. And that gives Donald Trump a huge mandate, one that we really haven't had for some time. On top of that, we have to also remember that Donald Trump cannot be reelected. So at this point in time, he doesn't really have anything to lose except for if they really screw this up. Republicans, pay attention. If you screw this up, you will not receive this kind of power again for a long time. You have gone to Washington and you have squandered this repeatedly. So if you're a member of Congress and you're watching this, do your frickin' job. And we're going to tell you what that job is. Initially, when I kind of got the sense that we were going to take all houses of government, I kind of threw cold water on the idea of this repeal the NFA, abolish the ATF type thing. And I kind of hold to that. I think that that's probably still a tall order for a lot of the rhinos in Congress to go after. However, what I will tell you is we live in an age where you can make a whole lot of noise very easily by just getting some friends together and putting pressure on your elected officials. Never before have we had this level of power to provide scrutiny to our elected officials. So if there is something that you really want, like a suppressor deregulation or a national reciprocity, for instance, that is well within your power to achieve at this point in time. You have to make it a policy objective for the current administration. And that means that you cannot go to sleep. You guys have been doing some great work the last couple days on that Senate Majority Leader situation. Keep the pressure on. We absolutely do not want John Cornyn in there. I don't really appreciate many of the other people that are in there. But, you know, the rule will still be in effect where we can challenge the I'm used to saying the majority or the minority whip, the majority whip. We can absolutely do that if they are doing a bad job. So keep that in mind. The scrutiny is on you. You cannot go to sleep. You have to absolutely do the work. So if you want something to get done, get loud about it, and get loud about it right now so that those bills can be submitted when the new term starts, because everything has to be resubmitted when the new Congress takes over. Keep that in mind. Now, obviously, there are going to be some other things that they're paying attention to besides firearms. What percentage of things that the candidates were running on were related to firearms? A very small percentage. However, you have the ability to flex that, so just keep that in mind. The next thing that I want to talk about is there are some appointments that are going to be made, obviously. A lot of times, appointments are made from across industries, across government. It doesn't really matter where you are. You can be appointed by the president. I see a whole lot of people pushing for Brandon Herrera for ATF director. I would absolutely love that. Please, sir, Mr. President, I've seen what you have done for others. If you could do this for me. Some of those appointments will be sitting members of Congress. And one of those sitting members of Congress that is being considered for an executive position is Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. Now, a lot of people have gotten up in arms about this because Marco Rubio is a rhino. He's a neocon. He's just kind of like a feckless fop. I didn't even know he was still in the Senate because I just assumed that he had kind of fallen by the wayside because we don't hear a whole lot about him. He kind of pretty much does the safe thing. This is not a place that we really want the safe thing when we've got all houses of government. We want them to push, and we want them to push hard to reform this government. And in that is specifically what we talk about on this channel is we want firearms overreach reform. Now, when it comes to the Secretary of State, most of you are not touched by the Secretary of State. There are some things that us firearms dealers or federal firearms licensees, I'm not technically a dealer, have to deal with the Secretary of State. Most of that is not going to impact you. However, what an appointment of Marco Rubio to Secretary of State would do would vacate his Senate seat. And if there is a person that I would like less to be part of the discussion when it comes to firearms reform, besides somebody with a D in front of their name, would be Marco Rubio. Don't really want him in there when we're having that discussion. Hasn't exemplified the types of ideals that we want. And when we think about the situation of him resigning that seat to take the Secretary of State position, well, that falls to the governor of his state to appoint his replacement. Who is the governor of his state? His state is Florida. That's Ron DeSantis. I trust just about anybody that Ron DeSantis would put in that position over Marco Rubio. I see this as a win-win-win across the board. Not only do we have all houses of government, but we are ejecting people from the discussion that have a chance to, or at least have an opportunity to derail that discussion. So I personally have no problem with Marco Rubio going to Secretary of State because most of the things that I care about as far as policy positions and changes in my government are things that are going to happen at the legislative level and the executive level. You might also put in, more appointments to the Supreme Court. So far, he's done a pretty good job of doing that. This all relies on Congress. So as I opened today, it's really important that you take time out today to call your senators and tell them that you do not want John Cornyn as majority whip. I said this yesterday, and so many of you are like, my senator is this loser from California or whatever. Then don't call your senator. Call somebody else's senator and tell them that you don't want John Cornyn. You don't necessarily have to call it your senator if they're not in the caucus. This all relies on Congress, and everything that we've talked about up to this point has been legislative agenda, but there are lots of things that Donald Trump could do unilaterally on day one with the stroke of his pen that relate to issues that you and I care about, specifically Second Amendment stuff. If you would like to see a list of things in order of importance, shall we say, then I will do that video for you. You just need to sound off in the comment section down below. Let me know that you want to see it, and I will make it. Thank you for tuning into the VSO Gun Channel. Have a good rest of the day, and I am shocked that I made it through this video because I feel like absolute trash. I was hanging out with my niece, and we were playing tic-tac-toe, and she's like, your turn, and I reached over and grabbed the marker from her, and she coughed right in my face. and then also right into my drink as we were sitting there at dinner. So I knew that it was coming. It's here, and I may not be here tomorrow because I may not be able to speak. So if I don't, then I'll see you on a future video, hopefully, if I can ever speak again, here on the VSO Gun Channel. Thanks for tuning in. Later on, guys.